we're probably a little bit more patriotic than we've ever been before. You notice a lot more Canadian flags flying. I think that's going to cause a lot of people to be traveling a lot more within Canada. Your dollar's not going as far as it would if you would travel to the States, and not a lot of people want to travel to the States to begin with anyways.
Canadian travellers are shunning the States and holidaying at home. I wonder if you can work out why. Property manager Chad Harker is the special guest on today's Host Planet podcast. Listen in to hear his take on tariffs, direct booking, social media, and much more. Chad, welcome to the Host Planet podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. What impact is Donald Trump and his tariffs having on the Canadian vacation rental market?
Yeah, get right into it. That's a good question. It's definitely the talk of pretty much everyone right now, including I was surprised to hear about how many people were talking about it in London and the UK. But I would say the biggest impact that we're going to see is a lot more Canadians and people traveling within Canada. Like I noticed, it's good and bad. I would say a lot of it's good because it's we're probably a little bit more patriotic than we've ever been before. Everyone's kind of sticking together. You notice a lot more Canadian flags flying, and even in the grocery stores, you see the things that are labeled. So I think that's going to cause a lot of people to be traveling a lot more within Canada, especially with the fluctuations in the currency. Your dollar's not going as far as it would if you would travel to the States, and not a lot of people want to travel to the States to begin with anyway. So I think we're not going to have a huge impact. So if you're, situated in a good area of the market, like a good metro market or closer to some of the beautiful mountain markets that we have here, you're probably going to do really well still. So,
and there's probably going to be an impact there on American hosts as well, who traditionally cater for a lot of Canadian tourists. I mean, we did a podcast recently with Sally Henry from Key Data, and she was saying that Canadian tourists are not going to the States as much, but they are going to Europe and France. And like you were saying there, they're going to be holidaying closer to home. So there's an impact on a lot of different sectors here, and it doesn't really bode particularly well for some people in the US, I guess.
Yeah, I would say you're absolutely right. I'm very involved in not only like the short-term rentals, but the investment community, and notice a lot of people looking to sell their properties or vacation homes in the United States for that very reason. And the market in Canada is actually still fairly strong, like relative to a lot of the other major markets. We're still pretty affordable. Obviously you get into Vancouver and Toronto and some of the major areas, it could still be a little bit more pricey, but relative to a lot of the other spots, you're still in a great position.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential out there in Canada. Okay, real talk now for all you hosts out there. You know that moment when your guest messages you again with, "Hey, what's the Wi-Fi code?" Or you're staring at 5 different calendars, wondering if you've accidentally double booked the cottage. Yes, we've all been there. That's why here at Host Planet, we recommend Hostfully. It's basically your rentals control center. It handles bookings across all the big platforms, syncs your calendars to ensure there are no double bookings, automates guest messages, and even creates these really slick digital guidebooks that stop all the repeat questions. Honestly, it just makes your life easier and keeps your guests happier, helping you achieve those all-important 5-star reviews. And here is a little bonus. If you're a Host Planet listener, you can get $500 off onboarding for Hostfully's property management software and 30% off digital guidebooks for life. Just hit the link in the show notes and use the codes PLANET500 for the PMS and Host Planet GB for the guidebooks. And if you'd like a proper walkthrough, there's also a link to book a demo with Frank Bosey from Hostfully. He will show you how it all works. Less stress, more bookings, sorted with Hostfully. So let's talk a little bit about your STR journey then. When I met you in London, you said that you'd converted a property and turned it into several different units. So tell us about that. How did you get started?
Yeah, so I would say several is a bit of a stretch, but definitely, I don't know if the house hacking concept is like a popular thing where you are. But essentially, I pretty much scraped up enough for a down payment on my first house and was going to go the very conventional route with just a long-term renter. And I just did a lot of work. Uh, I'm sure a lot of people might be able to resonate with maybe not having a lot of skills, but just some determination and willing to make it happen. So I also was kind of forced to, because I didn't have a lot of the money or resources that I might have today. So it was a lot of figuring it out. And we renovated the basement and the upstairs. Like, the property was pretty beat up. Like, it's funny because even when I purchased it, I still continue to live with my mom for the first couple months because it wasn't even very livable. But we did convert the basement, and then I actually started out just doing some rooms on Airbnb. And yeah, I wasn't sure how it would go. I'm sure you've heard lots of horror stories, and you know how the media likes to portray us sometimes. So yeah, I thought the only way to know for sure was to give it a shot myself. And I was pretty astonished with how great it went with just one room. So I was like, wow, if one room was able to do this good, why not do a whole property? Like, how would that go? So that's kind of how I got started into it.
When you look back now, what are the biggest lessons learned from the early part of your journey?
Well, there's definitely a few. Made a ton of mistakes at the start. I feel like probably the biggest lessons would be if you're able to surround yourself with the people that are where you would like to be or have achieved where you would like what your end goals would be, that would drastically accelerate your growth. Like, as soon as I started to get involved with some of the larger operators and hosts, I was that, like, some of the things that I was doing and they were like, oh, well, we've already been there, done that. That really helped me, like, cut out a lot of the mistakes that I would have made. So I wish I would have started that a little bit earlier on. However, I did get into it shortly after I started. So, and the community is great. Like, as you know, there's like tons of amazing people in this industry, and everyone's very willing to help out. Like, it's not maybe as like cutthroat or competitive. Like, there's lots of room for everyone to do very well. So,
what do you think the essentials are of delivering a really great guest experience? If somebody came along to you and said, oh, you've been doing this hosting thing for a while, where do I start and how do I be a success at this?
Yeah, I would say the number one is, just with any business, you got to have a incredible product. If you don't have, and with this case, that's your property. So if you don't have a good property to begin with, it's it's not going to make the biggest difference if you have the best automation or the best systems or the best email follow up. Because, like, like a direct booking example, no one's going to want to direct book with you if they didn't have a great stay to begin with. So I would say, like, just optimizing your property and really setting it up so people are having that fantastic experience and they want to stay with you again.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And in relation to direct bookings, then, like you mentioned there, how do you go about trying to drive those direct bookings?
Yeah, so after you check the box of having the amazing product, you got to make sure that they know that direct bookings are available, because if they don't know about it, there's no chance they're going to try to book with you direct. So we have a few systems in place with our business. First of all, as soon as they walk in the door, they can see we have like a website. As you know, Mark, amazing guy, he helped us out with that. And we have like all of the stuff in our guidebook. We have some materials out at the property. So then, especially, I'm sure you're aware now with the policy changes on Airbnb, you can't be pushing anything out on the platform. So that's where I feel like going back to the old school method with having some materials out at your property could go a long way. And it's the first thing people are going to see when they come in the door, and then having a great email follow up after they stay.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I was having an interview with somebody recently and we were talking about the Airbnb changes. And I said, well, maybe you have to go a bit old school, or I say old school, but having a QR code on the fridge where people can
Yeah.
book direct or even giving people a call, giving your guests a call and say, oh, I hope you've had a great stay, da-di-da-di-da. By the way, if you want to come again, I'll send you a message to the direct booking site, something like that. And that again is it's not just kind of going old school, but it's hospitality, right? And that's having that guest interaction is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what the whole business is about. And I feel like people get a little bit caught up in all of the software, the tools, and the systems. But like you said, probably just picking up the phone or having someone from your team pick up the phone and call and follow up to check in. And that's probably going to move the needle the most, especially like you get it fresh while they're like right after they stay, and they'll first of all see how much you care. Second of all, they'll probably be a lot more inclined to actually book with you directly, especially if you like let them know hey, we have like all these other properties. If you like this one will be the same level of quality, but it might be a little bit different of an experience with maybe amenities or location.
So talk to us about growing your portfolio then. How have you scaled things and what are your best tips on how to scale a property management business?
Yeah, I'd probably say one of the best things that has helped out with me tremendously is just letting people know what you're doing. Like if someone's asking or you're going to some of these investor meetups or any host events like the amazing ones that you do, just letting people know and following through on social media, like letting people know like what you're doing day to day and actually posting the content. That's actually what led to one of my first management deals. Is I met someone at one of those events and then they seen what I was doing on social media. They're like, wow, it looks like you're doing a great job. Your properties are beautiful. And they wanted to learn more because they had a few units that they were launching as STRs. So I would say that's probably one of the biggest things. Don't hide what you're doing, like share it with people.
I think that's a really great tip. I mean, like locally here where I am, two of the most effective ways of getting people to understand what you're doing in the community. There's a local community Facebook group, which is so effective at sharing the fact that these properties are there, because a lot of people are not going to know that there's short-term rentals nearby. And also like local community business meetups as well, attending those, mixing with people who might have workers or guests who are staying in the area that need accommodation. It can lead to a lot of bookings and just having that network. It's so important. And these are pretty simple things that anybody can do. Pretty much every community these days has got a Facebook group that you can nip in and reply to a few comments and maybe even, if they'll let you, promote the fact you've got a short-term rental as well. Are these things that you found effective as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you're doing the Facebook thing, it's like maybe get in there and build a little bit of trust and engage before you launch into your full pitch. However, like even with what you're doing with the events, like if you go to these events and you see the dynamic of it, how they're ran, like we hosted some events here in Canada, and we're actually doing another one of the following weekends. And I think it's one of the best things that you could do to really build trust and credibility in your community and like get the word out. And then on top of that, you'll also have a bunch of great content that you could, reuse for social media. And I think that's one of the most powerful things that you could do.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of people out there. They have a property and they've thought about short-term rentals, but have maybe never got around to doing it. So if you are front of mind, you've definitely got an opportunity there. And I was speaking to a property manager recently, and he said one thing they did last year was his property management company, they put on a masterclass event. So if any homeowners wanted to come along and learn about short-term rentals, they could go to this event for free. And I think he said they got about 30 or 40 people there, but it turned into 4 leads for his business, which they converted and got those properties onto their platform. So he said it was, absolutely worth its weight in gold doing those events. So like building that community is so important. In terms of 2025, apart from Trump and his tariffs and all that kind of trouble, what are the other key trends that you're seeing that hosts and property managers need to be aware of?
Yeah, I would say probably one of the biggest things that I'm seeing, and even looking at the platform and the changes, you could kind of get a good hint to where the industry is going. And I think one of the biggest differentiators is going to be the more experiential stays, because with a hotel, you're pretty much know what you're going to get, and that's one of the perks with hotels. It's pretty consistent. You're going to get a clean room, a bed, and it's going to be a pretty standard accommodation. However, with the short-term rentals, I think when you are able to offer some more unique amenities or some cool design features and make it more of an experience, like especially with social media now, I think a lot of people are looking on these platforms for inspiration on where they're going to book or where they're going to stay. And they're not going to be looking at a plain Jane hotel on social media. They're going to want to look at the cool places to show off to their friends. So I think that's going to be one of the biggest, especially going to when I was in Europe and visiting you, seeing a lot of like the crazy tree houses. Like we stayed in a airplane, and like some of those, if you're able to get into some of those categories in Airbnb, like the OMG, like maybe you won't be able to get into the castle category, but there are certain categories or certain boxes that you could check that are going to help substantially with your business.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And in terms of social media there, you've got like a decent following on Instagram and stuff. How do you use social media to drive people to your properties?
Yeah, we're working on that a lot right now. I think we've done a great job just being consistent. I think one of the biggest things with growing your social media, your following, your credibility, your trust is just like, you just got to realize it's not about you, like at all. It's all about what's in it for them, what's in it for your audience. And I think you got to be able to have, and it doesn't have to be a very hard pitch for every post or anything, but having some form of call to action. Because like we were just talking about, if people don't know about your stuff or how to book your property, it's going to be pretty hard. So just having even a link tree in your bio. We have some of the iGuides, so like a virtual tours of some of our properties, links to the direct booking, what fantastic direct booking website that Mark helped us with, and these things in place. So then you can, like, they could easily see like, okay, this is the places, these are the highlights, this is what's in it for me, and this is how we book it.
And do you get influencers to look round your properties and that kind of thing? Or is it mainly just staying consistent on social media? And like you say, having the guest really at the heart of all the content, the audience at the heart of the content, rather than, creating stuff that maybe you like to see?
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the core principles, absolutely. However, like what we've actually found is that with the properties how we set up, UGC, I don't know if you ever heard that acronym or term, but having users come in and generate their own content. Like we just had someone stay from a city, and he has a very good following, and he came in and he made a fantastic reel pretty much promoting our management business and the property, just because of how amazing it was designed and the experience that he had there. So I think if you're able to set up your place in a way that's like amazing, people are going to help promote your place on their own. And it's a pretty good business model because it's free. However, I like if it with the rate influencers like Madison with Mount, like if you get the right people, I think it could make a lot of sense, and it would be something that we would absolutely look into.
Yeah, that's a great point there. I mean, the best advocates really are the ones that you're not having to pay anything to if they're doing it organically. But I guess that again comes back to making sure that they know your Instagram handles, sharing that when they go into the property, and asking people, look, if you've had a great stay, mention us on social media. And if you do something, we'll send you a little money off coupon for next time or something like that. It's all these simple things, I think in the end can really, really add up to a lot more direct bookings for your business. Finally then, Chad, we've got a few questions to finish. So your favorite brand in the short-term rental industry and why?
Yeah, there I I might have to give you two, because it's hard to pick just one. There's a lot, but I would probably say Mark with Boostly. I just love how he has like really incorporated his brand, and like he has that almost his personal brand entwined with that. So I think that's another great thing. There are a great way to really build trust. Like if you're so involved in your business that, you could have, your face, and you're actually the main person for a lot of the content you're generating. That's just an awesome business model. And I also love Linkbase and Shavin. I know he spoke at your recent event, and his software and his brand has been amazing and tremendously helpful for our business.
Fantastic shout outs there, Mark Simpson from Boostly and Shivan from Linkbase, two friends of Host Planet. Next question then, Chad, an individual in the STR space you'd like to give a shout out to, and why?
Yeah, I would probably have to say Braydon, known as Mr. Airbnb. We were together for the trip with your last event, and just the level that he is operating and the business sense. And same thing like with like showing the power of your personal brand. Like he has pretty much built his whole business off of his social media, and being able to leverage himself and his personal brand. I think it's very powerful and really shows like what you can do if you build it up to that level. Because now he's doing, huge things like development internationally, and it's pretty insightful and powerful. Like it's super inspiring.
Yeah, he's doing a phenomenal job. He's got a great following on social media. Also, somebody that we interviewed on the podcast recently. And yeah, we all met. I know we've mentioned it a few times, but we should probably clarify that we all met in London at our Your Air Success event, which went really superbly, with a lot of brands and guest speakers there who were involved from the space. Finally, then, Chad, your number one lesson learned from your STR journey.
Yeah, that's a good one. There's definitely been a few. I would probably say, just every bad deal, every bad partner, bad guest slows you down. Like it's a lot. Once you get to a certain level, it's a lot about what you say no to. So, your business is only as good as the people, and that goes for both your employees and your clients and your guests. So I would encourage people not to, jump at every opportunity, even though can sometimes be hard as an entrepreneur not to chase those shiny objects. But I think like in the long run, you'll thank yourself for not having to deal with some of the potential headaches, and it's going to slow your growth down tremendously.
I think that is really good advice. Chad, it's been a real pleasure to chat to you and learn more about your journey. Thanks for joining us on the Host Planet podcast.
Thank you very much, James. Appreciate it.
Great to chat to Chad Harker there about tariffs, direct booking, and social media tips. If you're looking for more free education, head to hostplanet.club, the fastest growing multimedia platform in the short-term rentals industry. We're proud to help hosts and property managers supercharge their businesses by sharing a wealth of free content. Head online to sign up for our newsletter, download our suite of ebooks, and listen to our podcast series. Until next time, happy hosting.